Added some color to it. At the bottom there you can see it's just a 3D, what we call a solid model for manufacturing. Of course, prior to doing the tooling phase of it, it has to be broken down into components. Some things on here are cast metal, some things on here are plastic, some things are formed wire. There's a lot of different scenarios to keep in mind here, but ultimately, we design the model in 3D, make sure it's perfect, and then we take it over to the factory, and then they're more responsible for delivering something that looks exactly like this. So the production, the paint scheme, and the packaging design, obviously once the 3D model is drawn, we do renderings of the paint scheme artwork so that they can paint it correctly. Here we get very, very detailed on all the different warning labels, and there's just tons of labels on this car. Even on the deck of the car there's also pad printing, so we try to add all that stuff. Packaging design, the N-scale car is a lot more simpler, but the HO scale car has a box that folds up. I mean, it's a full-on folded cardboard box. This is just inserted into a package. But you can see this is kind of the back-end design for the marketing of it. So now we go on to the factory in China. These are kind of a smattering of photos, but I wanted to pull out photos that I thought might help you guys understand what it takes and what these guys and girls are doing over there to help make these products. At the top left there is an engineer. This is from my trip in January, so these are not F89J specific photos, but it's the same process to make anything. He's there spinning around one of our 3D models, which is actually our triple track signal bridge. Over there to the top right is just a bunch of CNC milling machines. You go there, open up the doors. Each one of these is grinding out molds, which is also called tooling. Here we have some different molds. I know the one on the bottom right was for passenger car windows. We did not make a passenger car, it was for somebody else, but just a ton of work is involved, and this is the major capital expense to produce a single freight car. From there, this is just what I thought to be a really interesting photo of how many, these are mold, cavities. These are all just basically their mold, inventory at the factory. And I deal with two different factories over in China. So some of these, I realize some of these photos are from one or the other. You'll see different, hats and things that they're wearing. So bear with me on that. On the left-hand side here, these are people that are working in the tooling department. Bottom left photo there, that's also a guy that's working on the inserts. I don't know exactly what they're doing some of the times, and again, our ultimate goal is to just make the product great. All the stuff that goes into it, all this nitty-gritty is just on the back end and ultimately doesn't need to be worried about. So there I am on the left-hand side holding a cast metal, and that's actually a piece of our 5-unit spine car set, the 3-unit spine car set. The piece that I'm holding on to has to be milled off the car. So they get put into one of those machines, a CNC milling machine, and actually milled off individually every single car for every 5-car set. I mean, it's a tremendous process that they have to clean the oil off the car. There's quite a bit of work, again, that goes into every single one. And we all know as modelers, look what these girls are doing here. Have you guys ever cut those many pieces off a screw? I mean, it's maybe in your lifetime, but to sit there 8 hours a day or whatever it is, just to show it is, there's a staggering amount of manpower that goes into these things that we just don't see. But basically they're modelers just like we are, they're just getting paid for it, and ultimately that's what it takes. Here is the painting, a couple different painting rooms at these different factories. One of them, the guy at the left-hand side there is painting, I believe that was a whole tray of grab irons. What they will do is individually place these grab irons on tape in strips. So just one after the other, somebody sits there and places grab irons on tape, and then he sprays them all at once, and then they take them off and insert them in the models, a little bit of glue, just like we would do on anything else. So we're talking just mind-numbing work. It's interesting to walk around there and just see this taking place. They're quick at it, but it's still mind-numbing work. Additional painting here on the top right and bottom right. The assembly lines, these are typical assembly lines in China for a factory. It's nothing different than any other type of industry. Things go down the line. I mean, it's just as you would expect for any assembly line. It's not really glorious work, but it is what it takes to make any type of product. Now we're on the pad printing room. Top right there shows all the different pad printing machines lined up. They have made advances in the technology behind this. So for instance, when I was there even 2 years ago, every single hit on a car like this, where we have, let's say, the load weight, the light weight, that would maybe be one hit with the pad printing machine. So we're talking a different tampo pad, a different setup, because they have to get it all cued in there just perfectly with the jig. Beyond that, every single thing, every single color would be done separately on every single part of the car. The ends, the tops, the bottom. I mean, it's incredible. Nowadays, they do have more sophisticated pad printing machines where they can do multiple colors, lay down, you know, maybe the entire one side of a car at once by grabbing multiple colors. It's gotten a little more sophisticated, but this is also just very, very time-consuming. So, additional production methods beyond the traditional, you know, plastic cars. Lost wax castings are a big, you know, part of, well, I wouldn't say a big part, but they are a part of model trains. Here we have the girls with the wax, you know, masters that they're going to then do with the lost wax casting process, which is its own process. I'm not going to go into it, but ultimately you end up with these trees of brass parts. I'm up here, this is in 2010, I believe, holding a 200-foot HO scale brass bridge, which is one of our products. Prior to painting, every single unit that we received were painted. So it's just kind of cool to go to the factory and say, hey, here's one that was just assembled that isn't painted, and you can see just the tons and tons of soldering work that goes into them. And these trees are almost works of art. I mean, they're incredible. Chemical etching, like I said, I mean, I'm very familiar with it from doing it in the U.S. Also now with the Metal Business Card Company, it's its own process that I don't have time to, I'm not here to give you guys lectures on processes of how it's done. It's just, this is another step to it. That's a chemical etching machine. It's ferric acid in there to help basically cut through the metal sheets. Metal wheels, this gets brought up because ultimately in N-scale, you know, we're trying to push the envelope, go away from plastic wheels, move to metal wheels. There's a tremendous effort behind what looks like such a very simple part. These things, this machine over here on the left-hand side is one that the factory custom built. You can't just go out and buy this. To assemble the wheel halves, which are all machined separately, or the wheels I should say, onto the axles, and it does them with a little, you know, press, and it's just a consistent, these things are spinning around. I mean, it's a very noisy room because they built multiple, you know, multiples of these machines. It's tremendous to see it, and here you can see just the bins of metal wheels. I believe this was all HO scale. The N scale wheels are a little more complicated, so when there are QC issues, you know, basically it's made from this machine and they weren't checked properly, and as my, you know, BLMA rep here, since I'm the owner, I will say that if there's ever an issue, we will take care of it. But this is where it happens. I mean, it has to be mass produced because there are just tens of thousands, if not, well, easily hundreds of thousands of wheels being made on a monthly basis. So the final part of this is the quality control and packaging. What the guy there at the top left is doing is basically he has a can of paint. You can see the two little paint you know, cans there. He's going through, you know, touching up any paint just as we would before you put it on the layout. Before they put it in the package, they need to make sure everything's perfect. Obviously, you know, again, with thousands of units being made, some quality control issues do happen. We will always take care of them. But this is where it's hopefully going to be caught. The other girls here, same situation. Just touch up paint, final quality control. They do have a reject rate, so if they make, well, you know, again, they will always produce more than they need to, based on the fact that some, these people are human, will make mistakes, and some will be rejected prior to final shipping. So beyond all of the manufacturing, all of the research, we also have the advertising, which is a big chunk of what I love to do. I don't do the ads anymore. Charles, my graphic designer, does them, but it's still fun to have the input on this. This is where I love with BLMA, just having fun with it and doing things that maybe haven't been done. I mean, this isn't one of our most unique ads, but it's the F89J ad, which is why I used it. It's still fun to, you know, throw this information out there, show some of the 3D renderings, show what we can, even before the model's been produced, to help you guys understand what the quality is going to be, and ultimately if you'll make the purchase for it. And finally, the finished product. So here I hold the F89J in my hand. This is the third release of the car. They just shipped, and again, I mean, this, you know, it's kind of a A to Z trip on what it takes to make this. This was at least a 3-year project in the making. It was, you know, noted to me by a friend, hey, the F89J would be a great project, years ago at a train show, and I started to look into it, and we found one again at Colton, measured it, did all that, did the drawings for at least a year, found out that there are a ton of different variations on this car in terms of the hitches, the risers, where when the hitches collapse, the truck trailers would drive over the risers. There's wood risers, steel risers, no risers. We've done each of these cars individual per road number. So in any given, you know, one of our runs with this one, this is the RTTX, we did 6 road numbers. All 6 are specific per road number. With our most recent release, same situation. This is a 70s era car. Each one per road number has different details, ACI plates, you name it, depending on, you know, the actual road number. So anyway, that I think concludes it. And thanks for listening, guys, and I hope that
Thank you, Craig. That was just really interesting and beautifully delivered. Thank you very much. I think there's a few of our smaller manufacturers here who've got some pegboards like that who are looking forward to the day when they're delivering by the container load. Just a few of you, just a couple of you out there. But once again, can you thank Craig? That was great. Thank you very much.